wanted to welcome everybody back to another episode of Fright Fights Podcast. You may have listened to us before. My name is Chris, and we also have back again, we have Tyler. And new to the show is we have Mike. So welcome aboard, Mike.
Hello, hello.
So Mike, he works with me as well, and we go way back to probably about almost 5 years now, a little over maybe 4 years.
Yeah,
Just talking about horror films. And Mike, your favorite film of all time is the original Halloween, correct?
correct. Yes, obsessed.
So what is it about Halloween that makes you love that film? Like what is it? Is it the first movie that you got you into horror or what?
Yes. So I think I was right around 6 years old when my dad started kind of letting me watch scary movies. And I remember Halloween was it, and I can still remember the very first time that I watched the original Halloween. My dad was like, "Hey, is your mom asleep?" And I was like, "Yeah, Daddy." He's like, "All right, I want you to watch something." So we watched it, and I think I was so caught in the moment of the mystery behind the man behind the mask, and I just wanted to know like who it was, why he was doing it, and at such a young age, the attention that it took. I mean, the attention that I had for it, and the I guess I guess the right word would be just the obsession. I was so obsessed with the mystery behind the mask, and it's always just stayed with me. And it's the best time of the year. It's involving October. You get that spooky feel in the air, that cold air that just gives you those kind of chilly vibes, man. It's just Halloween is just, I don't know, man. I think it's a part of the foundation of horror movies.
Yeah, and to me, Halloween is a 3-month event. It's August, September, and October.
Man, it's 12 months for me.
Yeah, well, true, but
Yeah.
So Tyler, everybody knows my story. Everybody knows the Critter story. They know that I run the Fright Fight, or that I run the They Bite podcast, the Critters Facebook group, world's largest Critters fans. Everybody pretty much knows. If they know me, they know that story. So, Tyler, what exactly was it that got you into horror shows? What was one of your favorites that got you watching stuff?
Well, yeah. So kinder trauma all the way. Late night HBO after my family went to bed. Any kind of film that came on from Sleepaway Camp, Halloween, all those classic films that we know and love today. I always would stay up at night after my family was asleep and watch those. But my true love for horror really started whenever I actually went to the drive-in one night, and it was a Spider-Man double featuring at the second part with Freddy versus Jason. And it was great because the entire place was sold out for Spider-Man. And literally after probably 200 cars loaded it down, after it ended, everybody left but like 4 cars. And there was this weird fog that was like forming because it was like midnight in the middle of summertime. And I remember I was like, man, this is absolutely fucking terrifying. And I was like, I went outside, I watched it, and I fell in love with Freddy, fell in love with the entire story. And I remember going to the video store after that and picking up the original Nightmare on Elm Street, watched the entire series.
So Freddy versus Jason, that was your first franchise, like first venture into Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th?
Yes, absolutely. Now
Wow.
I did
Wow.
catch, no, see, like on television, I would catch like, bits and pieces of the TV edits. Like I remember as a kid, Halloween 3, it was like on Sci-Fi, and of course it was edited and chopped down for television, so it wasn't the full experience of actually watching Halloween. And I was always very confused why the shape wasn't in the third one. I was like, is this actually like Halloween? Is this what is this? So I never really even knew Halloween 3 was Halloween, like the
How old were you?
franchise. Probably like, so whenever I watched that one in theaters, I was 8. So I was 8
Okay.
years old, yeah, whenever I first got into it.
I
But
was gonna say,
before
because
that,
when I started watching horror, I was probably around there, around 6, 7, or 8 years old, and I was watching everything.
Yeah.
Anything I wanted to
Mhm.
watch, I could. And back then, one of the biggest things for me was Monster Vision. Catching all those movies.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
they were edited down for TV, so you didn't see all the stuff. So it was a lot easier to watch those without getting any kind of trouble or anything. That what really got me was Monster Vision and USA Up All Night, and just showing all the franchise movies, and hearing Joe Bob talk about the history of the movies was something that I grew up with. And then hearing about them, and then going to the video store to rent them every week. And
Yes.
but that is really cool, Tyler, that yours started with a drive-in experience of
Yeah.
Freddy versus Jason. Like, I remember building up anticipation to go see that in the theater, because I'm a little bit older than you, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great. I love the experience of being able to watch it in a drive-in, because it really added a lot to like the aesthetic of the entire thing. So it was a lot of fun. But of course, before that, watching them on TV, kind of getting that first kind of dose of horror, really had me intrigued to, Jason, Freddy, all these main characters that we know and love today. So it's still to this day my favorite franchise is Nightmare on Elm Street for that. So Halloween's great, Friday the 13th is
Nice.
great, but I always have this thing for Freddy for that. And I think that now I look
Yeah.
back at it as an adult, it's something really, really kind of like cathartic and scary, and genuinely like terrifying to think about how your dreams you're not able to escape, obviously, and you have to sleep by human nature. So the fact that Freddy kind of like plays into the dream world, it's something really that redefined horror from Wes Craven. So I think it's really cool.
yeah, I really
Nice.
think that
Nice.
watching these movies at a young age as a kid, it
Oh yeah.
it really helps you get into it, because I don't know what if I was to start watching these films as an adult, I don't know if it would have the same impact on me as it did as watching these at 6, 7, 8 years old, and just
Right.
falling in love and seeing everything. And Mike, I've talked to you a lot. I know you and your daughter. I think you said what, she's 10 or 11.
Yeah, she's 10.
10.
I introduced her when she was about 9 years old. So she's a horror obsessed. I still kind of like got to watch, and I mean, I've seen so many like scary movies, and I kind of know the scenes to tell her turn away or cover her ears. So I'm not trying to introduce her to like nudity and things like that. So I got to be
Yeah.
cautious on that part. But her favorite franchise is Scream. So she loves the Scream because I think it has it involves like school, involves like kids in high school, so she can somewhat relate because she's still in like the school mindset. So I think that gets her attracted to the Scream franchise. Plus, that's our very first movie we watched together. So it's kind of like I'm passing down that torch from my dad introducing me to Halloween, and then I've kind of passed the torch to her. So it's kind of the newer thing. Scream's not, well, I wouldn't say newer, but Scream to her is like the new
Yeah,
horror. So
it's new to her. It's new to her. And
right, right,
that's what a lot of people don't understand is, even though that these movies are older, somebody
exactly.
is discovering these movies for the very first time, and it's like
Oh
they
yeah,
just got released to them. And I think it's really cool that you're spending that time with your daughter, watching those movies with her, introducing those to her, because it could very well shape who she is when she gets older. And that's how it was for me when I was a kid. I didn't have it. My parents didn't watch movies. They didn't introduce me to
yeah,
these things. I discovered all this stuff myself, and everything that I watched, turned me into the person I am. It made me like certain things certain ways. It made me feel for certain people and certain characters, and I relayed that into my real life, and that's what made me who I am. So I think that's really cool that you get to spend and bond with your daughter that way. And I'm hoping to do the same thing. And my little girl's only 6, so I still got a little bit of time to wait before she kind of starts. But we've already
oh
watched a
yeah,
few things. I introduced her to Dolly Dearest, and she really liked that movie. So
I love that movie.
nice, nice,
It's
yes,
kind of great too because if you think about Wes Craven, every single decade the guy completely redefined the horror genre pretty much. So we have something that really pushed the boundaries of kind of like the rape narrative in horror with Last House on the Left back in the 70s. In the 80s, we were introduced with Nightmare on Elm Street. In the 90s, he redefined it again by releasing the Scream franchise. So it's kind of interesting because a lot of people you talk to who talk about their stories with them getting into horror to begin with, it's weird enough, like 80% of the time, you'll hear them immediately mention something that Wes Craven did. And I think that's really interesting to see how every generation he kind of has that grip on each individual person growing up at the time he released it. So it's kind of great. I love that. And I mean, Scream is pretty scary too. So your daughter has the horror. She has it. So.
She has the feel for it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a franchise that can definitely catch your attention, and it has a little bit of comedy in it as well, like a mixture of the comedy, which makes it kind of fun for a younger generation as well. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, I say what's really helped molded me and shaped me into the obsession of scary movies is just watching it at such a young age, and people look down upon that, but it's really helped me. It's really helped me define who I am and my interests, and it's just the appreciation for like horror movies in general. Like it's I want to know everything about them. I want to watch every show. I want to go blindsided. I don't really want to know ratings when I go in before I watch it. I want to get my own kind of perspective and then talk about it. So there's so many scary movies out, and then things that like, for example, Chris and I did at work. We gave each other, what was it, 10 movies to watch. We were kind of playing a game, and we came across so many titles that we never really would have like searched for. Like, prime example, Hell House LLC. Great little trilogy there. That
was definitely a hidden gem. We played this game to find out who could pick a better movie out of the two. So he would pick one, I'd pick one, and then we would watch both of them and then figure out which one was the better movie. And Mike chose Hell House LLC just randomly because it was just like a found footage type movie, and ended up being one of the best found footage horror films that I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely.
Oh man. And it's so good because like you didn't have high expectations, but then again, you really didn't expect much because you never really heard about it. And it was really a hidden gem, man. And I'll tell you another one if you guys, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it or heard of it. Summer of '84. Great little movie there. What was the other movie, Chris? It was something that you picked about the boy with the sword. He killed like his friend. What was that? Shadow of Darkness or Dark?
Super Dark Times.
Super Dark Times.
Super Dark Times.
That was
spoiler
amazing.
Spoiler alert for anybody who's listening.
Sorry. So if
it's been like 4 years though, so they've had time.
Sorry. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, blame this guy up here.
Somebody's gonna be listening to this who's never seen it. They'll go, "Fuck that Mike guy, fuck him."
Oh man, like I'm kick him off.
Love that. I think there was some kind of a weird. There was this like weird, like if you guys notice, somewhere around that time, it was like 2017, 2018. There was this like weird renaissance of like 1980s kind of like throwback style, like kids in peril or kids committing some kind of like a weird like crime or being like completely traumatized by something. And all of those like Summer of '84. There was even more I'm trying to think of. It was like Super Dark Times, Summer of '84. There was what was it, Candy Corn? There was a couple other films that came out during that time, and all of them were fantastic from what I can remember.
Yeah. Something I remember too about doing this game is Mike one time picked out a movie because I think he was busy or something was going on, and I don't think he really wanted to choose a movie. And just randomly, he was just like the first movie he saw, and he chose Zombie Tidal Wave. He was like, "That's my choice, Zombie Tidal Wave. Let's just watch it and get it out of the way." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me, Mike? Like Zombie Tidal Wave? We're gonna watch that?" And I chose a movie, and I don't even remember what the movie was that I chose. It was like a 70s giallo film. And my movie sucked so bad that zombie tidal wave was like the Citizen Kane compared to the movie that we watched of my choice. And we ended up choosing Zombie Tidal Wave as the winner. It was actually a pretty fun movie.
It was a fun watch. It was a fun watch.
I have some questions about Zombie Tidal Wave. I really want to know. So, are the zombies in the tidal wave? Is there is like a hurricane of zombies, or does it have anything at all to do with a tidal wave?
Yes to all the above.
Yeah, it's a wild watch. Let's just put it that way. It's not going to win an Academy Award, but it's definitely going to make you laugh and smile. It's good. It's good. I'll tell you another show another movie that I actually introduced my daughter to. We watched this last night. The Faculty. Great movie. It's the whole alien kind of, not knowing who's who or who to trust. That movie gives out pretty good vibes. I'm sure you've all seen it. Love that. So that was another movie that my daughter was really, really, highly interested in and seemed like she really enjoyed.
I still love The Faculty. I think it is a fantastic movie. The effects are a little dated if you watch it, but I still think it's really fun. The characters are really fun. What's his name? Josh Hartnett. He was like for some reason he was in like every horror film for like a year, and then he just went off. He just like went off the rail and didn't do anything anymore.
I think he got a haircut because his hair in all those movies never. I think he just went to a barber and said, "Give me that fuck up cut," and he says, "I got you."
I love it.
Whatever haircut I could get that will ruin my career, I want that one.
Do it. The barber said, "Say no more. I got you."
So, in recent news, they had an interview with a producer from a horror franchise like the Stephen King's It, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. I believe his name is Roy Lee. And he was talking about movies that he wanted to make and produce. And somebody brought up the Friday the 13th franchise. And he had mentioned to them that by the end of this year, there was going to be a big announcement regarding the Friday the 13th franchise. So what is your guys' thoughts on that? What do you want to see from that? Like, because that's a pretty big news topic. That's one of the major horror franchises, and it's been 13 years since any adaptation of the franchise. So what do you want to see come from that?
It's been 13 years since my son has no. So the thing is that I know it's been tied up in legalities, right? I don't know how those are going. I haven't been following it lately. Have we heard any news, Chris, on if they have settled that or not?
Yeah, that's done. Where have you been?
I completely missed that. What happened exactly? Do you remember?
Done.
Did they who owns it?
So Victor Miller has the rights to the first Friday the 13th film internationally.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Sean Cunningham or Horror Inc. or whatever has the franchise and the use of Jason Voorhees.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. I can't remember which is which, but yeah, one of those two. And so, but in order to do either one, they have to work together because say Victor Miller can go over to China and make a Friday the 13th movie, but he can't use Jason Voorhees. And then over here in the States, they can use a Jason Voorhees, but they can't use it in Friday the 13th or any of the characters from the original film. So they can't have Jason's mom or any of that stuff like that. So It's a very conflicting settlement. Yeah. But either way, both of them have to work together to make something happen.
Yeah. And probably a big paycheck for both of them too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, based off of what you just told me and knowing that the legalities have all cleared up, I think that my hopes would be obviously a new reasonably budgeted film. So we're talking $20 million plus Friday the 13th adaptation. And I've always wanted to see it in the winter. I've always had this like idea and concept whenever I think about Friday the 13th of being able to see like like opening scene a snowy, kind of like misty looking Camp Crystal Lake. And I would really like to see them do something like that with it.
Have you seen the fan film Never Hike in the Snow?
No, Never Hike Alone.
Yeah, well, they made a sequel.
And
It
then,
was called
oh
Never
yeah.
Hike in the Snow.
Oh no, I've seen Never Hike Alone, but I never watched Never Hike in the Snow.
Yeah, it's either being made or already made. I've only seen the first one, but I know that they were making the second one like in the snow and stuff.
Love that. I think that that's fantastic. I would love to see something like that. Which we have 13 Fanboy, that just came out as well. I don't know. I know that it's basically what isn't it like the story on that? I know it has Deborah Voorhees directing it, and apparently they did something like almost like a they're aware of their characters. Like basically they're filming a Friday the 13th fan film, and like Jason is like actually like a real life like person in that. Kind of like what they did with Freddy, I'm guessing. I haven't watched it yet, but I think it sounds really interesting. It's
Yeah, I
nice to be
haven't
able to
seen it
see
either.
something official come. Like, I mean, I feel like we've been
Yeah,
getting nothing but
yeah.
fan films. And while I love fan films, I don't have a problem with them being made. I think the more the merrier. It's still going to be nice to actually see a real entry into the, the actual franchise. So
Yeah.
it's been, like you said, since like 2009, since we've seen something from that. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah,
What do
for
you think,
sure.
What do
Mike?
you think?
I'll piggyback off that. That's awesome. I never really thought about doing something in the winter like that. That'd be a cool take on it. I think as well to really, I would like to see a complete just remake, just a restart. I mean, I respect all the older films, I did not really care that much for the one that was, what was it, 13 years ago? Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It's like easily to be forgotten. I think it was the frat guy that really ruined it for the whole movie. Like the jock dude, I hated him. I'm glad he got killed off in it. But
There's a line in that movie. I swear to you. I swear he's in a bedroom and he's having sex with his girlfriend, and he
your
stops
tits
for a
are,
second, and he says, "You have perfect nipple placement."
yes.
Who writes that shit? Nobody in
you
the
don't-
history of the world has ever said that.
You don't tell your girl that? I mean, I don't know.
Chris, you're alone on this one.
Man, Chris, no. I mean, I would like to see just a complete redo. Just reboot it. Halloween's been rebooted, or like a continuation. I really don't know. I don't know. Maybe to continue on the.
I don't know. Those
last one.
Halloween reboots were kind of rough with Rob Zombie.
Trash. Absolutely trash. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
hated Resurrection, but I'd rather watch Resurrection before the Rob Zombies. I'm sorry.
No way.
Oh man, I hated.
I would
Well,
too.
I'll
I
put
would
it this.
too.
I will do this. My list, I would go Rob Zombie 1, Resurrection, then Rob Zombie 2. So it's like Resurrection's right in between the Rob Zombies. Like I liked the first one, but I didn't like how it was just so over the top of, I like the small things. I didn't like Michael really talking in it, being able to hear him, like, he was supposed to be like the Shape. He was supposed to be like, the Boogeyman. Boogeyman don't talk, Boogeyman doesn't do anything. But to backtrack onto like Jason, I'd just like to see a complete redo. Just a new timeline, start fresh. But the winter thing is really cool. I like it.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting. What if they did something on the lines of, like what they did with the most recent Halloween installations in the franchise with
What the fuck are you holding, Tyler? Is that the sphere from Phantasm?
it is. The ball's gonna go right into my mouth in a minute. Boy.
I was on the wrong Zoom meeting. I'm sorry, guys.
You caught us at a bad time, Mike. This is actually what we
Or
really
the
do
right time.
podcast.
Okay, my bad.
I love it. But
I'm sure you
what
do.
hey, boy. So basically, what I was saying about Halloween was I feel like they're gonna do something like really, really like weird with the franchise where they're like, well, we're gonna forget about 2 through whatever the hell it is now, and then we're gonna go back and just only remember the very first one and leave off right there, and it's gonna be 30 years later or something. I don't know. I could see them doing that. They've done that with other films before. I don't know. I think that something like that's most likely gonna happen. Is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be bad? It's most likely gonna be okay, I would say. I don't think it's gonna be good or bad. But I am excited to see them resurrect it, for a lack of a better term.
I want to see something simple, just very simple, very low budget. They don't need to spend a lot of money, just a couple $1,000,000. That's it. Give the studio give $2 million, $3 million, and just let somebody go out and do their own thing. No producers looking over people's shoulders saying, do it this way, say it this way, this is what's going to happen. Just let them have fun, make something fun. And that's what they did in the past. They would bust them out in 6 months, and it would just be really quick, really cheap, and they ended up a lot of fun. So that's what I want to see. Just simple.
Well, I mean, like you think about Friday the 13th in general, and the story is not necessarily well fleshed out. They pretty much just focus on the creative kills and Jason after the second one. So I think really honestly for that franchise, instead of trying to develop the story and try to answer all the questions like, oh my God, he was bullied. Oh my God, this, oh my God, that kind of thing. It's just better just to jump right in and say, this guy's a fucking maniac and he will absolutely just slaughter you. And I think that's what makes the series fun. It doesn't focus on that story kind of driven. It's just straight out, just let's do some creative kills. Let's have, the counselors. Let's have this. Let's have that. Let's have him in space killing. Let's anywhere. You know what I mean? So I think that would be like what Chris is saying. I think is essentially how I would feel in terms of if they wanted to just go that direction instead of trying to answer any questions to take it that route. And that would be interesting too. Just like back to basics horror, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Don't overthink anything. It makes everything bad. Always.
For sure.
So I want to talk about a movie that I watched last night.
Oh my God.
Mike, thank you for being awake and letting me text you my frustration and watching the most awful piece of shit movie that I think I've ever. It's not the worst. I will say this: it is not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it is pretty fucking close. I found it on Tubi. It's called Fan Base, and it's about a guy who he jumps into they're filming a horror film in the middle of the woods, and this guy comes in and starts killing people on set.
Jason.
But that's the thing is he's killed. They're making like a sequel to a film franchise of like a slasher franchise from the 80s. And the first 20 minutes of the movie is them doing a reflash of what the original films were to give you an idea of what film they're making. And it's basically Friday the 13th part 2. It's a guy wearing overalls with a potato sack over his head, but the kills are the worst kills ever. We're talking about when somebody gets hit with a shovel, they can't actually hit them, so the guy will actually like just barely touch them with the shovel, and then the camera will cut really quickly, and then it'll show somebody laying on the ground. The people in the movies that they're supposed to be like part 1, part 2, part 3 are the same 4 people in every single one of them, dressed up with different wigs on. And it is very noticeable. It is eye-rollingly noticeable. It is absolute trash, fucking miserable to sit through. At one time I texted Mike, and as I was texting him, an advertisement through Tubi came on for like some type of insurance commercial or something like that. And I literally was like, thank fucking God there's an advertisement on that ended up being better to watch than this piece of shit. like I hate bashing movies, especially like low budget independent films. But they did not try. There was no trying whatsoever. It was them having fun in their backyard and poking fun at people making movies almost. And I don't understand how they looked at the final product and said, this is something that people have to see. I just don't understand that. It's mind-boggling at how they looked at the final product and said, this is good.
Yeah. I don't know how I got on
sent you
TV.
videos. Yeah.
Oh, I saw it, and I thought it was like you actually dressed yourself up and just recorded. It was the camera quality doesn't have to be great for a homemade based movie, really. I can respect shitty camera quality, but this was just the minute of film that you sent me. Zombie Tidal Wave looked like an Academy Award winner. I mean, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah,
I'm looking this up.
If you're listening right now, go check out Zombie Tidal Wave. Like, we really put that movie over. Like,
dude, can we get some money on marketing that? I mean, seriously.
Okay, Tyler, what is the worst movie you've ever seen?
I think probably what is it? It's an Amityville sequel, which all those are just absolute
okay. It's better than the fucking movie I watched.
Oh Jesus!
I'm not kidding. It was.
Well, I mean,
you know that I watched some really bad movies. Like, I watched some of the worst movies ever made, and I do my best to finish every single one of them. But if it is a chore for me to sit through, especially like a slasher movie, like it could be the lowest of lowest budgets and the worst of the worst slasher movies, and I'll still find something entertaining about it. This one, there was nothing. There was no quality whatsoever on any aspect. No quality in acting, no quality in directing, editing, writing, anything. There is a credit at the end of the film. I sat to the fucking credits. Don't ask me why. I sat to the fucking credits. And there is a credit
made it that far
where it was only an hour long. It was like an hour and 6 minutes long, and I couldn't fucking wait for it to be over. There's a credit in there that says music material sourced from YouTube. Like, they actually gave themselves a credit for finding music on YouTube.
Wow.
It was just one guy. Wow. He had to give himself credit somewhere. Credit found where credit's due.
Yeah. I mean,
movie.
Chris, that took him hours to find those songs.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally had to work his ass off to make this film.
And you know what? I don't remember any fucking music from this movie.
There wasn't.
I was going to say
it was a credit for him trying to find the music.
Trying to find it.
It's an A for effort, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, even as like
awful.
but here's the thing. I'm like, even if somebody had $1,000, let's say, to make a film, it comes down to it. You have somebody who can actually, like, you know, write a story, can pull it off and have fun with it to some degree. It's going to be entertaining. And then there's those people that have absolutely just no taste or no business making any kind of film whatsoever. And them trying to pull off a fun movie pretty much just becomes like homages to like really, really, really shitty, low budget horrors that they've seen, but they also don't know how to pull that off. So that's when it becomes like really redundant and boring. And that sounds exactly like what I mean. I'm looking at pictures of it right now, and I completely I mean, it looks like it was from like a Halloween shop.
From Wish.
It was the wish.com horror.
I wish that the movie would be never made.
Yeah, right.
Oh God. What did you watch?
It was so bad.
What have you watched this week, Mike?
What have I watched? We have watched The Faculty. Watch the new Predator movie, Prey.
Yes, me too.
I was a fan. I was a legitimate fan. I thought they didn't go over top with like CGI, you know, anything like that. It was kind of, I loved how they went back in time. So like, this is basically the beginning of the Predator or the start of it. I won't go into full detail because I don't want anybody to, you know, be wanting to see this and give it. But I guess if I could give any rating on this, I mean, I let's go 1 through 5, being like 5 being great. I gave it a solid 4. I really enjoyed it.
Let's do 1 out of 10.
Okay, I gave let's do 8. I mean 7, 5, 8, because the acting was done pretty above average. The character, the Predator, the Predator was. I liked the new look. I really did. I didn't mind the facial, a little bit of the facial change in the previous movies. So I loved it. I 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people has been kind of pissed about the slight redesign of the Predator, but I think it really worked because you had to understand, like, in terms of Predator, the past films. This is okay. So obviously, this is a prequel. I think it's very, very interesting because most of the Predator films before this really focused heavily like on like, I don't know, like guns and actual like military style weapons, and the science fiction to that was like super like, tech, like a lot of techiness. This just, stripped it all off, and this was, something from, it was like, what was it, like the Comanche warrior kind of like thing, where they were all trying to learn how to hunt and to be able to see that. And obviously Dan Trachtenberg directed this. He also directed 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I know Chris is a fan of. At least you like it too. So
so
I mean, like, he did a great job. I don't know if I would like this quite as much as 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Well, I think the reason I like Cloverfield Lane is just John Goodman. That's the only reason that I think I like that movie.
He's great. Absolutely. But it was very heavy. This one was more focused, to me at least, on like characterization. We really get to see more so like, I don't know, like character development than actual Predator action. And it worked very well because it was very primal. It was very like, everything about it was just very analog. And I really enjoyed that with it because, when you fight a Predator, you think like, oh, it's going to be like the Schwarzenegger films. But if you think about it, it kind of was, because at the end of the original Predator film, Arnold Schwarzenegger lost everything. And he basically like, fucking fought the Predators with like some sticks or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really this was just like an extended like piece of that entire, like, this film was basically just like the end of the original Predator, which I thought was kind of fun. So I mean, it was good. I would give it a solid like 7.5, 8 as well. Especially I forgot the main character who plays her, but she did so well. I mean, that performance was absolutely stellar. So I would recommend it. I think it was something very needed for the Predator franchise. Because it was basically, I mean, after like we have what, Predator, Predator 2, Predators, Predator. And it's like, where the hell do you go from that? Like how much more could you push it? So I think going backwards instead of forward, it really it works so well, and it was beautifully done. Some of the CGI was a little bit on the dodgy side. But it's still, I mean, it wasn't too noticeable. I did like the Predator. I don't think that's the thing. It's weird because the actual Predator, to me, like whenever they actually appear, the CGI wasn't that bad, but whenever it came to actually the physical like animals, like there was like a snake, a bear, different things like that was being CGI'd, it kind of was noticeable to where it was a little uncomfortable. But I mean, but overall for a Hulu original film, and something they definitely didn't spend near as much money on as the past installations, it definitely was solid. So I mean, I would agree with you on that, probably like 7.5, 8, because of how original and interesting this one was.
Definitely agree with that, man.
You haven't watched it, have you, Chris? You haven't watched it?
I pray that I never have to watch Fan Base ever again.
Oh, I'm pissed.
Well, I'm going to tell you this: if you sat through Fan Base, you'll definitely appreciate Prey.
Oh yeah, Prey is very, very good. See, and the thing is I know obviously Predator is like one of those films that's not necessarily straight up horror. It's like science fiction. This one I think even like draws less. This is almost like drama with a little bit of sci-fi and some action peppered in, but it is very, very quiet for the most part, and it takes its time developing the story. So it's definitely not your typical horror. So I don't think it's even pushing close to that. So I mean, but overall, it was still something that's going to please the fans. So
absolutely, yeah,
that's what it set out to do. So I'm cool with it. I'm cool.
Yeah.
Has anybody watched Vortex or Lux Eterna with Gaspar Noé?
I've not.
No, I haven't seen. No.
Alexa, stop. Sorry, my head bitch was in there screaming. So I don't know if you guys, it's hip as shit to hate the guy, Gaspar Noé. I don't know if you guys are fans at all. I personally love his film, Climax. Climax to me was absolutely a masterpiece. And whenever it came down to like watching his other films, though, obviously a little bit pretentious, not necessarily the greatest director for a lot of people. I mean, the guy gets booed every single time he goes to Cannes. So, I mean, what is to be expected? But Vortex and Lux Eterna was his most recent films. Vortex released, and then Lux Eterna was filmed right after that. It was great. I mean, that's all I could really say in terms of Vortex. It basically follows a story with Dario Argento leading, which I think is absolutely great. What the hell is going on, Chris?
Is that Gizmo?
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, Chris stood up. That's you know what it is. He said he wasn't wearing any pants on the.
How long's it been since you trimmed down there, Chris? Hey, everybody's listening to the audio version of this. They just think you're calling that my gizmo. That's what I refer to it as. Just gizmo.
That's what it is. Yeah.
For now on, you have to call it your gizmo.
I gotta go. Bye. Oh god. So Chris, we were talking about Vortex. I don't think you would like it, but it is interesting because it does have Dario Argento as the lead. And something that's really, really interesting about this film is if you think about Dario Argento as a filmmaker, a lot of his past stories that he's made, like Suspiria, all of them have to do with like a house or like a space. To me, Suspiria really focused heavily on the art of the actual house, like the color palettes and everything like that. So what Gaspar Noé isn't necessarily going directly for that same vibe, but he's definitely paying homage. And I wonder if Dario Argento had like some input on how to like dress the set, because if you look in the background, you see like letters from like, I don't know, there was like something with Hitchcock there. There was a bunch of like old scripts. There was like posters from films. The entire house was like decorated in like all kinds of like movie scripts and writings and stuff. And I wonder almost if they used Dario Argento's actual house to film this. I don't know, but it seemed to me like it was very, very much almost not as if he was playing a character, but he was playing himself, is how Vortex felt. So yeah, it was really interesting. The movie opens up, basically his wife has dementia, and the story opens up in one shot where they're both together in bed. And the shot stays there for 2 or 3 minutes, and eventually you slowly see like a line drawn on the screen. And as that line goes on the screen, it splits the screen into 2 sections. One camera is just on him, the other camera is on her. And the entire story takes its time. It's very slow burn, but it's very interesting. But you basically just follow their days, and you see him slowly becoming disconnected from his wife, and his wife becoming absolutely, just completely unlike herself. And you see the family kind of like come in to try to help. And I completely understand what he was trying to do with that. And it was something very interesting where you kind of just see that distancing happen using actual, like, the screen itself as kind of like a storytelling mechanism to where people can see the differences of the two worlds as they happen. So I don't know. I think it was actually it was pretty solid overall. I'd probably definitely say it's his best film. One that wasn't his best film though was Lux Eterna, which was the one that came right after that. And I don't even know if you could call this like a full-fledged feature narrative because it's like 50 minutes long. Like it's barely even hitting like, not even an hour. And it's told in a very similar way, but this one's more of a film about filmmaking. They're basically on the set of a witch movie, and there are three stars there. One of the stars is like an absolute diva, and she's always like bitching because like things aren't going her way, and she wants to be like catered to. And then we have like all the people, you kind of just like follow the production designers and stuff as they're trying to stage this witch movie. But then you find out towards the end that the actual witch movie itself may become haunted through like a ritualistic kind of like summoning. And like the last like maybe 20-25 minutes of the movie will absolutely just give you a full-fledged like seizure because it's straight up like just flashing lights. Like we're talking horribly like headache inducing. A lot of people, and I thought it was kind of cool and interesting. A lot of people like gave him shit for using that. I thought it was kind of cool, but the movie overall was not developed very well. There wasn't much of like a solid end point. The ending, frankly, just sucked.
Hmm.
But overall, I mean, it was interesting enough to watch. So I'd probably give like Vortex like a 9 out of 10, and I'd probably give Lux Eterna
Wow.
like maybe like a 6 if I was gonna rate it. So both of those, I do recommend checking them out, especially like Gaspar Noé. Lux Eterna is closer to climax, and Vortex is unlike anything he's ever done before. It's not your typical Gaspar Noé film at all. And if you like Dario Argento and kind of like the guy's life as well, I think he does a great job. He's not even an actor. He's never acted in anything before, I don't think. So to see
Wow.
him branch out and try acting for the first time, and he's like, what, 80 years old? I think it's really interesting to see.
Sounds interesting.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. It was good. I mean, it was solid.
Well, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum there for you, I watched a film called Maggots.
Oh,
So,
Oh, yeah.
God.
so, so I talked to you about this, Mike, and so I wanted to watch it specifically because of the kind of fear that both me and you have of maggots, anyways.
Oh,
And I wanted to see what they were going to do with it. And basically, it's about a guy, at least like college students, who one person is a real big nerd. He's really into science and everything, and he begs his science professor to let him go out in the field and do some research in a local area where they are. I guess there's like a lot of chemical products being dumped in the forest and stuff. And so he agrees, but the only way he can do it is if he takes people from his class that are failing along with him, and he was going to give everybody a full credit of passing if they all found any discoveries of new forms of life or anything. And while they're there, the all the chemical waste that has been dumped in the area has caused a mutation on all of the flies and everything in the area. So then whenever they lay their eggs, those are also been mutated, and we get these giant maggots. And they start off at like the size of like a small cat, and as the movie progresses, they grow to like the size of like a large dog. And they at first, the beginning of the movie, the first 20 minutes of the movie, I thought I was going to hate it. There's one character in particular. He's the actor, the actual director of the film, and he's just over the top annoying, just making silly sounds. He's supposed to be a college kid that's like always goes out and parties and drinks all the time, and is just really stupid acting. But it's so much over the top that it's annoying and it's hard to watch. But once they actually get from the professor's school to the actual field where all the maggots happen, or all the attacks happen and stuff, it becomes a really low budget fun film, like a really good B movie. They use all practical effects. There's no CG. They use these giant rubber maggots, and they're like hand puppets type deals. And it's really fun and funny, entertaining from the first 20 minutes after 20 minutes and to the end of the movie. Just a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. Especially if you like creature features or special effects and stuff. Just those type of movies always interest me, and I ended up really liking this movie.
Yeah, Slugs is one of my favorite.
Yeah, yeah, those are fun. That was fun
Love
too.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
love Slugs.
oh, that's good.
It's so good. Oh, have you guys seen Crabs? It's
No.
new. It just came out like 2 months ago. Crabs.
No,
I didn't know
have
you
not
knew
seen
my
this.
ex-wife. That's crazy. She made a movie. She made a
No.
movie. Wow.
I haven't seen it either. I really want to see it though because I've heard really good things about it. I just thought I'd mention it before we get started again. But
I've actually not heard about this movie. Can you elaborate more? Like, what is this? Like a creature feature?
I don't know. Let me see. We were just talking about maggots. So I was like, huh. So Crabs film. Let me look this up because I've heard people talk about it. So it's a horror comedy. It's only available on demand. It just came out on demand. In the middle of prom night, a swarm of ferocious mutilated crabs descend upon a small coastal town. A ramshackle band of students and cops work to stop the growing menace. It's by the guy who directed. His name is Pierce Berlinsheimer. He directed Sunbelt Express. I don't know. I've heard it's bonkers. I want to watch it.
I'm looking that up after we get off here because
I was going to say I'm interested.
So it's Crabs with an exclamation point. So it's Crabs.
So would you like to own this movie, Tyler? Would you like to get Crabs?
I would love to get Crabs. I've never had the experience of being able to get them, so I just really, really, really want to try it once. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So you have something else, Mike? You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So rumor had it that they were going to kind of do a remake of People Under the Stairs. So there's a lot of kind of talk that it was going to happen and it kind of got pushed to the side. Number one, are you guys a fan of People Under the Stairs, the original?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Same here.
It's been so many years since I've watched it though. I need to rewatch it so bad.
Oh man, such a great movie. But would you all like are remakes good? I guess that's going to be my question. Would you like all these movies to be remade or rebooted, or do you guys want like the originals left alone? I guess that's my question.
So the way I feel about it, and I had to put some thought in it. I've never heard of the People Under the Stairs being remade yet, so I had to think about that one particularly. But generally, what I like to see is if it's like a franchise. So if it's like Freddy, if it's like Halloween, if it's something like that, even Phantasm or something, I wouldn't mind seeing another entry into that series. Or if I want to do something creative with it. But if it's something that is a standalone, it never was a franchise, just a one-time film, not all the time, but generally, if it's considered to be like a highly prolific film in the in kind of like cinema's history, I don't really want to see it touched too much. Like for example, when they remade Suspiria, and I was pissed. Oh, yeah. I was absolutely livid because Suspiria is probably one of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. So whenever they came out and announced that, I was like, you can remake the movie, but you're not going to be able to really remake what was originally done with it, like Argento did. Kind of like the same with Wes Craven. It's just like you can remake People Under the Stairs all you want, but are you going to be able to duplicate the same art and technicalities that Wes Craven put into that series? Not series, but film. Overall, though, he made a lot of films during that decade. So any of those films being remade, it's going to be kind of like hard to touch, I think. But certainly, I feel like standalone films could be remade and be very well, because I think that the Suspiria remake was very good. I thought that it necessarily wasn't good as a Suspiria movie, but as a witch movie, it worked very well. So I would definitely watch it. I would say that. I'm not going to say if I would like want to see it done because I probably would, prefer it not be remade. But I
Respect.
would go for it,
Yeah, same.
I would
for
show
sure.
up.
What about you, Lex? Yeah, definitely, most definitely.
I absolutely love the original People Under the Stairs. That's one of my favorite horror films growing up. I watched it all the time. And yeah, whenever the news broke about it, I think it was Jordan Peele who was
Yeah.
announced as the one that was going to remake it. And the original film touches so much on race and class that the way that Jordan Peele makes movies, I feel that if anybody was going to remake it and do a good job,
He
I
would
feel
do
like
it.
he would do it. Yeah, I feel like he would really do it. The only thing is I don't think the atmosphere would be there. That the atmosphere that the original had, just how mysterious everything was, and like just how interesting that the characters were. That's the only thing that I think would be missing from the remake is that element.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's like the big thing I would agree with too, is just like the way that what the originals were being shot. It's
Yeah.
really, really gonna be hard to try to make that different. You know what I mean? Like we have a certain mind whenever we go to watch these remakes, like, hey, this character is supposed to look like that, and that character is supposed to look like this. And then we see kind of like a reimagined version of that. It's like, wait, that's not that character that we knew. You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of
Right.
people, when they watch these films, including myself, I mean, I'm guilty of it too, um, want to stay with that traditional style. But overall, it's something that it either sinks or swims. You know what I mean? It either absolutely just
Yeah.
does not work or it works. And usually it doesn't
Yeah.
work, but I mean, it's worth a shot, I guess. you know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'll still watch it, and I won't. I won't say no to pretty much anything horror related. I'll give everything a chance.
yeah, I mean, then that kind of brings us to Nope with Jordan Peele, because
Oh yeah,
I think that would be a great segue to talk about Nope. Have you guys seen it yet?
I have.
You have?
Nope.
Have you seen it, Chris? You have Nope, you haven't seen Nope?
Nope.
Well, we won't. I guess we could talk about. You want to see it like in the next? You want to wait and talk about it later, or do you want to talk about it this week?
I don't know when I'll be able to catch it. So if you guys want to go ahead and talk about it, that's fine with me.
We'll do like a spoiler-free kind of like mini review.
Yeah.
Because
Nope.
I personally
Huh.
love Jordan Peele.
I do too.
So
I like him.
he came right out of the gate with and Get Out, and I think it was an absolute
Oh.
masterpiece, like remarkable.
Great.
And the way I see Nope is the way I see Nope is really like his 80s kind of like blockbuster of modern day. Like this is his. I remember, I think that after I walked out of the theater, I'm like, man, that seemed extremely blockbustery, like a summer fun blockbuster. So I think the budget on it was like what, 60 million, I want to say. It was a
Yeah.
lot higher than the other ones.
Yeah.
So that was really something that was surprising to me whenever I went to go see it, was how much the guy just in 3 films has kind of made like a holy trinity of horror. Get Out,
Yep.
moving into Us, which I didn't like Us quite as well as Get Out, but I think it's still
Same.
super, super good though. I think Get Out's like a 10 almost, like a
Oh,
9.5
yeah.
to a 10. I mean, I would say that Us kind of went down to a 9. This probably stays around the same with Us, but this was very different to me, at least. And I'm sure you saw
Yeah.
that too, Mike, whenever you went to see. It's very, very different from his other 2 films.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all
Yeah.
kind of like that though. So
No. Yeah.
well, I mean, if you look at it like to me, so if you look at it as a film about filmmaking, so obviously this is basically about horse trainers in Hollywood and trying to carry on the name from generation to generation after the dad died. I think it was the dad. And if you read it that way, basically a film about filmmaking, it really, really goes into some really interesting concepts, because we see kind of like the industry with this. So there's this thing called Gordy's Home, and it opens up at the first 5 minutes of Nope, we see this chimpanzee kind of like running absolutely a wire across this set. And we don't really know exactly what's going on or any kind of context to it. We just know something really bad has happened. And later on through the story, we kind of like learn a little bit about Gordy's Home, which is the show that they were filming with the chimpanzee. So while it kind of seems like it's more surface level as a narrative, whenever it comes down to it, it still has those kind of like Jordan Peele moments throughout that makes it really interesting to watch, because I think it's saying a lot about, how we kind of like animals in Hollywood, how they're kind of like used for profit and how we use certain people for profit, or maybe like, different kinds of demographics of individuals, how the upper class, lower class. I think it plays a lot into that as well. But I mean, hell, without even that, like separate all that, just watching it as a film about filmmaking, the guy just absolutely does fantastic. And it also makes me want to go to Fry's Electronics. We don't have a Fry's Electronics in the area, but let me tell you, there is like Fry's Electronics literally plays such a big plot point role with this that it's hard not to like bring up Fry's Electronics while you talk about Nope, because it's great. What'd you think, Mike?
Dude, I agree. At first I was trying to visually understand what I was watching, because I was kind of taken away at first. I was like, man, what is this? Okay, I know, I have an idea what it is, but then when it actually showed the image, I was kind of like jaw dropped. I was like, man, this is a good, different twist on a movie, and if anybody could do it, it would be Peele. I love Get Out. Get Out is one of my top 10 movies. I really enjoy it. I love it. I love the whole aspect of it. I don't like Andrew Peele. Yes, most of his movies are about race, but he does it so well, and he does it so professional. And I really respect him. I would create like Us was good, but out of these three, like that stand out, that would probably be my third favorite out of these three. Get Out would be first, and it would be Nope. But Nope is just, it's a cool movie. It's a fun watch. You wouldn't forget it. It's definitely something that I would probably buy when it does come out, just for the simple fact of how creative he was with this. It was kind of stepping outside of his element on his other few movies that's been big hits. But the Western feel of the movie, the Hollywood animals that they're training, the horses that they're training, it felt like you were there. You kind of appreciated the characters, I guess, and like how strong-willed they were to carry on their family heritage, which I definitely respected. And there were so many like scenes. I wish Lax would have seen this. There's one I really want to mention. I just don't want to give it up, but I'll kind of vaguely tiptoe around it. It's about the house, and kind of like what it gets covered in. Jaw dropping. I was just like, man, this is happening. And so yeah, with Nope, I gave it a 9. I really liked it. Get Out, I gave it a 10 out of 10 because I love it. I mean, it's great on all levels. And Us, I gave it like a 6.5.
Oh, really?
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, whenever you make a masterpiece like Get Out, I think it's really hard to follow it up with something that's just on the same caliber. I do think that Nope, and I put Nope and Us on closer levels than that. I put them almost about the same. But overall, I did think that Nope is interesting because you can go in and you can watch it so many different ways. You can watch it as almost like an alien movie. You can watch it as like a movie about filmmaking. You can watch it about almost even a comedy. Hell, it's like social, it's political, it has horror, it has sci-fi, it has everything, all these kind of like subgenres crossing over to each other. And at the end of the film, you really don't necessarily really can grasp a concept of exactly what he was going for with this film. And
Yeah,
as much as you could understand it and try to like, to reason with it, there's just so much there to go back to over and over again. I think that it was absolutely just low key. This one's a lot more low key, a masterpiece, but I think it definitely was not a disappointment whatsoever. It definitely was one of his, I mean, obviously he's only made 3 films, so it's one of his better films, but all of his
agreed.
films are great, but this is
Oh
probably
yeah,
right up there almost with Get Out to me.
I
So
I agree. I
yeah,
definitely
Chris.
agree.
Chris has got to see this. You've got to see it, Chris. I think you'd like it. You dig it.
Yeah,
I
I want to
agree.
see it.
I have one more too. If you guys have, you have another one.
Oh no, no.
You
I'm
should
out
have any
too.
more. You're out. Okay. Well, I just wanted to mention briefly, Zach Baggins. I love the guy. Out of all the ghost shows on TV, that's literally he's my go-to guy.
Yep.
I have recently started watching the Haunted Museum. It's a place that I've always wanted to visit. He actually opened up this museum in Las Vegas, and it has, I guess, like basically the way I have it set up is different rooms. So you can buy an admission ticket. He makes you sign a waiver before you enter this museum. And I guess they have a guide that walks through, and they have just nothing like doors lining like the hallways. And they're like, inside of this room is X, Y, and Z. And then you can make the determination if you feel comfortable enough to be able to put yourself at what they would like risk to enter that room and interact with this haunted object, because these are all proven to be extremely like satanic, very, very
Wow.
like heavy stuff. And apparently somebody's even had like a heart attack at the haunted museum trying to like see these haunted objects. So I was like, man, I really want to visit. But this show goes deeper in detail, and it goes through each of the rooms and kind of like describes kind of like what's been going on. But they actually do it in a weird way. It's kind of cheesy because at the very start of it, it's basically just Zach Baggins talking about the object, and then it goes on to this like weird kind of like flashbacky story montage of like, oh, this could have been what happened to this object and make it so, evil spirited and so haunted. But I don't know, it's pretty interesting because they have Dracula's mirror. They have, oh my god, who played the original Dracula? I'm spacing out, Chris. Mike, somebody.
Um.
Bella
The
Lugosi.
Yes, thank you.
yeah. Oh
Whew.
yeah.
I blanked out there. So Bela Lugosi's mirror is like been like noted to be extremely like haunted. And they said that the guy like was obsessed with like playing Dracula, obviously, and like he would go in his costume to his friend's house on like weekends, and they would do like the whole Dracula spiel for them. He became like obsessed. So they have Lon Chaney's mirror in one room to where they could pull down the mirror and you can look at yourself in that mirror.
Wow.
And it causes people to go into panic attacks and all that. So it's interesting. It's interesting to learn about how you can actually visit the haunted museum. It's interesting to kind of hear the history of the objects, but it's also like really it's pretty scary, honestly. It's probably one of
Yeah.
the heaviest things you could actually like go experience. So it's a bucket list item for sure. I would recommend. I think it was on Discovery Plus. I watched that one. So if you have Discovery Plus, it's definitely worth checking out. It's like the haunted. It's called the Haunted Museum.
On a museum. I'll put that on my list. Yeah. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
I like Bagans.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's absolutely great.
Looking forward to the new Halloween. Halloween ends. I just hope it's better than Kills because I
Oh
wasn't a
yeah.
huge fan. Um, I do respect the retro scenes. I did really like that in Kills. I thought Dr. Loomis was pretty close appearance wise on the retro scene. And I really enjoyed Halloween 2018. I really did. But Kills kind of fell off from 18. So hopefully this ends kind of saves this little 3-part, well, I guess a continuation from the original, but I'm just curious on how this, no pun intended, ends. So
So, do you think this is really the end?
What I've been kind of reading around on, it's not. So does he die, or is someone else consumed with evil? Like, who? I'm curious on how this either A continues or how Michael's character ends, or if he ends at all. So
It doesn't matter how, like, they cut his head off in Halloween H2O, and they still found a way to bring him back. So
listen, he did not, because he crushed the voice box and got the paramedic in there, changed his clothes and all. So Michael's quick.
Let me tell you, if you guys want to kill Michael Myers, it's very simple. All you have to do is throw him in the water because he cannot swim whatsoever. You remember the opening scene from Halloween 5? He literally,
Yes.
he like fell. He was like, I was just like floating down there. I'm like, hello.
That is funny.
I mean,
That's
can you
actually-
swim in overalls and a mask? I mean, come on.
That's what it is. You can kill him that way. Forget knocking his head off. Forget anything. Forget burning him. Whatever you need to do to him, just throw him in the water. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
I-
if I watch Halloween Ends and one person from that movie screams "Evil dies tonight," I'm walking out.
Honestly, they got so
Yeah.
much shit for it last time. I think that they would be honestly, if they just did it one time, that just like a one-time homage to the people who absolutely fucking like made that into a meme, low-key, and then move on. Because if they hit that again, that's going to be absolutely just dreadful.
I hope there's a character that like is looking for Michael, and like he runs upon him and he like bumps into him. He's like panicked and doesn't know what to do. So he stares at Michael for a second and he says, "Evil dies," and then Michael just cuts him off and kills him real quick before he can finish it.
that would be a very good way to bring that back in, I think. I mean, at this point though, it's become like so like well known. It's almost like they almost need to say it. They would almost have to say "Evil dies" at least just one time. It's like a joke.
You know how like Tommy Doyle died in the last one? They should have it where they're at a funeral and the headstone will say like Tommy Doyle and it'll say "Evil dies tonight."
I love all the memes too. They're great. I did want to mention one more thing. I was going to save it until next time, but I've actually thinking about all the streaming things that's coming out lately and this fall. I definitely want to mention kind of like the return to streaming / theaters after the pandemic. And I actually was texting Chris about this the other night too. I think it's really interesting because a lot of people would think that theaters really were going downhill after the pandemic because obviously everybody's staying at home, no one's going out anymore. So theaters stopped spending so much money. But what I've been noticing coming out, especially in 2022, is they're kind of still focusing on making streaming content, but they're almost bringing us stuff that we've been asking them to bring us for years and years and years that they would never touch before because they didn't want to put the money into it, or they didn't want to put the marketing into it, or they overall, like for example, they want to have a good solid remake or sequel to something without having to pay the high budget for it. They want to have a streaming budget. So now that we see like, Disney Plus bringing Hocus Pocus 2, we see Hulu bringing the Prey. Then we see ultimately what else is coming out this fall. I mean, we have literally so many different kind of movies. I'm even trying to think. The Munsters, for example. I thought the Munsters were in theaters. It's going straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
So almost things that we had always had wanted, like sequels to Hocus Pocus, sequels to this, sequels of that, all these big movies that we would never have gotten any other way. The fact that horror is kind of leading more towards streaming content and going back to theaters very slowly, I think that we're seeing like a renaissance of the sequels, the remakes that we've actually wanted to see for a very long time, as well as being able to actually go to the theater and see some of the bigger titles in addition to that. So we're seeing the best of both worlds, I think, right now. So it's really a good time to me to be a horror fan, just because of all that investment that's coming into streaming and all the investments coming into the theaters, and we're getting things we've never gotten before. I just was gonna see your guys' like opinion or reaction to being able to see all that happening now, because I've definitely noticed it, and I think it's really it's a good thing. But at the same time, it's kind of like, how many more can we check off our wish list until it
Right.
kind of runs out? You know what I mean? I think it's cool though.
Yeah, I like having a lot of different avenues to go with being able to access horror movies. Like, you know, there you'll have the option of going to the theater and experiencing the theater side, which like I'll do with like Halloween, and I'll do with like Scream, even though it may come out on a streaming service. That I'll probably go to the movie theaters just because that's I appreciate those so well. And it's not that I'm saying I don't appreciate the movies that I watch straight on streaming. But there's just so much. If I would have had these many options when I was in middle school and high school, I would have dropped out. I would have never gone. I would have just stayed home and watched movies all day.
Yeah.
But it's I guess technology and the way everything is at your fingertips now. You could literally watch every episode of, for example, Scream right now, and it's on, what is it? Is it Paramount Plus right now? You can watch all from
Yeah, I think
1
so.
through 5. It's like, man, you could just make a day of it and watch a whole franchise. You don't have to go out and buy the DVDs or the Blu-rays. It's just, it's crazy with everything and different routes you can go with watching the horror movies, which I love it. I could literally I don't have to get changed and do anything. I can just lay on my couch and watch movies all day. But I don't know how you guys feel. I know you guys like to invest in like the DVDs and the movies, and for the collection part, do you guys like having them as your access to the streaming side? Do you guys appreciate and value those as much, or do you still want to like get the DVDs and the Blu-rays? What's your all's take on that?
Well, for me,
Uh,
go ahead, Chris.
as someone who values like physical stuff, like it's much more personal to own something
Yeah.
than it is just to be able to watch it. Because 9 times out of 10, if I go downstairs to my basement, I grab the Blu-ray, I put the Blu-ray in, watch the movie, watch the special features, take the Blu-ray out, find a place for it on my shelf. It's more personal to me. I'll remember more stuff about it than just a one click and it's done. Like I could turn it off at any time. I could watch something else at any time. So I'll always have the appreciation and love for physical collection than streaming. But I find myself much more watching streaming stuff these days than I do anything else, just because it is so easy. Because almost everything that we have is on streaming services. But
Yeah.
the only problem I see from it is there's so many different streaming services. It's hard to remember where everything is. It gets so jumbled up that you forget about things. You forget about which services are on. You may not be able to afford that service for that time period, and you've already done a free trial for it once or something. And it makes it a little bit harder to remember what's on it, as to being able to go down to your basement and look over your entire franchise and be like, there's that, there's that, there's that.
Yeah,
Respect
and
that.
honestly, my opinion on this has changed. If you would have asked me this even like 2 years ago, I would have said, like, absolutely physical media is the only way I'd want to go. I absolutely do not like streaming services for the exact reasons that Chris mentioned, but I also like the novelty of being able to actually see the physical copy as a library on your wall, being able to
Yeah.
walk past it and be able to say, I own this movie, and see the artwork, see all the bonus features on it, be able to like actually take it out, appreciate the format, appreciate the restoration, put it in, be able to make a night of it, kind of like giving you more of like an old school kind of vibe of analog movie watching. I really like that aspect. Nowadays, I have noticed, to my collecting personally, I'm not collecting the kind of films that come out like at the big box retailers. I'm more focusing on just buying films from boutique labels. So I still collect Criterion, I still collect Scream Factory, I still collect Vinegar Syndrome, Severin, all these kind of like, boutique, smaller kind of labels. I am buying tons from them. But when it comes to like buying a movie like at my local Walmart or something like that, I'm not buying stuff there. Any kind of like major title, I'll wait for streaming usually, unless I absolutely love the movie. So to me, I think that the future of movie collecting isn't necessarily going to be the same as it was. I think there's still definitely a place for physical collecting and there's benefits of it. I don't think that it's going to be necessarily focused so much on the movies that's out in theaters. Like, basically having all those on your shelf's not going to really matter in the future. They don't really hold value. They don't hold a following, but these kind of like restorations of boutique labels and stuff, they hold more of a following and more of a viewership, and people appreciate it. So I feel like they are going to be kind of like the future of collecting moving forward. So that's kind of like where I'm focused at right now on there. I love streaming services. I think that they're doing some great things with it. I'm going to continue collecting my boutique labels, and that's kind of like where I'm at with it. I'm very excited to see some of these things coming out in the future. So we'll see where the wind takes us with that. But right now, I think that's probably the most popular approach that I'm noticing a lot of people do, and myself included.
Yeah.
Before we end our show tonight, guys, I wanted to ask you all just one little quick question. Off the top of your head, just choose a movie that you feel is a very underrated or unappreciated film that you really like, that you think our listeners should go out and watch. Just really quickly, it doesn't have to be anything that we've talked about on the show tonight, just one movie that you like that is very underrated that you think somebody should watch.
Oh, I'm gonna have to think about that for a sec.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and go because I have one in my mind already. There's a film from the 90s. It's called Terror Tract, and it stars John Ritter. So Terror Tract with John Ritter. He plays a real estate agent, and he is trying to sell these homes to these people. And each home that he takes somebody to has a story of the previous owners and how they died. And he has to, they ask him the question of, is this house haunted, or did something bad happen in this house? And he has to tell them the story because legally he's supposed to tell them that situation that happened there. So it goes back, and it's like an anthology of like 3 or 4 different stories that took place at these different houses. And it's really, really cool. Really fun. There's one particular story that involves a guy who owns a pet monkey. And it's one of those monkeys too, like the ones you would see like that always jumps up on people's shoulders and like does little tricks and stuff, like those type of little monkeys. It's one of those, and the story is called Bobo, and I've really loved that story, and I think that's the reason why I love the movie itself, is just because that one particular story in the film. But it's a very underrated, and I don't think it's like hardly available. It's like the DVD was very limited when it came out. It's never been on Blu-ray. As far as I know, the DVD was like limited and then just stopped selling, and like the company just doesn't sell it anymore. So it's not streaming anywhere. But if you can track it down, if you can find it, Terror Tract with John Ritter, great film.
Terror Tract, okay.
Mike?
Man, gosh. Well, we mentioned it earlier. If anybody's like hasn't seen it, I know you guys have. Like I said, Hell House LLC is such a underrated gem that like I said, I figured going in, and when I first saw it, just the camera footage, I was like, man, this is gonna be terrible. But it just kept getting better. It's definitely worth the watch, and you just appreciate it because it gives you that creepy vibe watching it through the camera of someone else carrying the camera. It's the way they handle it. It's very, very professional with how they do it. So I would definitely say Hell House LLC would be my go to a very underrated, very unknown movie that a lot of people don't know about unless you are like a big horror movie fan, kind of like us three that dug up and found it. Then as well, I don't know if you guys would agree. Have you guys seen It Follows?
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Me and Chris saw
another
it
one.
together.
Dude, I like it because you get that 80s vibe music, which I love. I feel like it's an underrated scary movie. So yeah, either Hell House LLC or It Follows. Very underrated.
Yeah, I agree with both those as well. Tyler?
All right, I got one because I actually watched this maybe 2-3 weeks ago. American Movie. It's kind of a deep cut. It's a documentary about this boy who is back in the 90s, just out of high school. He's not wanting to go to college. His family's like, "Oh, you're a piece of crap because you don't want to go to college. You this, you that kind of thing." And he just wants to make a horror movie. And essentially he can't find funding anywhere for this horror movie to get made, and it's literally a documentary of just him going around trying to find and secure funding, trying to get these actors. He has no experience at all, and him and his like friends and his uncle tries to fund the film and all this kind of stuff. So it really kind of shows something that's really interesting about films, about filmmaking, and kind of the behind the scenes, like how it is. And it's actually really funny too. There's some really funny lines in there. I don't think it's streaming anywhere either. It's kind of harder to find, but it's definitely, if you love filmmaking, you love horror, and you love like funny films about filmmaking, you would love that. It's so good. Definitely want to see.
Nice.
Yeah, there's another one I just thought of as well. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's called Fan Base.
Oh man.
Oh shit. Golly, don't watch it. Oh my god.
Honestly, we have given Fan Base more like we've actually given Fan Base like more advertising than it's ever actually even had. So they're like the people who made this movie is like, wow, they're really, really, really gonna attract all these people to watch Fan Base now.
They're like we won.
Yes, they're like, thank you guys.
Yeah, don't watch it. But want to thank everybody for tuning in, listening to us just ramble on a little bit about this and that, and just our thoughts on different movies. And we didn't really have a specific format this week. We just kind of wanted to go through and just chit chat about horror. And we hope that you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys liked our little back and forth with different films and our reviews. And if there's any movies that you guys want us to review, let us know. If we get a lot of people that talk about the same film, we'll get together, we'll find a way to watch it, and we'll all three do a review on it. So thank you guys for watching or for listening. And on that note, we will see you all next time. Yeah. But Mike, there was a show like he was talking about. It was called Scream Addicts, and it was going to be a complete web series, like a video web series, and then a podcast completely separate as well that we recorded. And it was a big thing. Like we did it for a really big website, a big horror website, and it was very like high production value and everything. Like we had a set built for us. We had our own podcast room that we did with a soundproof room. Wow. But it was big, like a really nice studio camera. And it was the first time that me and Tyler had ever done anything in front of a camera like this as like a host of something. So me and him were both extremely nervous. And I remember the first episode that we were filming, it was either first one or second one. I was in the middle of going over a news topic and I sneezed. And I didn't know how we were recording, so I didn't know if we were able to do it all over again. So I just froze. I was like, Hachie! It just stopped completely. I was like, I don't know what to do.
That was so much. Same here. We literally, it was a lot of fun, but let me tell you something about actually being in that situation. It's weird because like just sitting here talking, it's chill or whatever. We're able to like mess up. Like whenever you have like an entire like low key studio audience, because it'd always be like our producer named Brad, the person he worked with, and at least like 3, 4, 5 other people watching as well. I'm like, man, they're gonna like fucking judge every single thing I say right now. So I was like, They were like, "What do you think of the movie
Yeah.
Halloween?" And I'm like, "I don't have any opinions. I'm sorry. Please
I've
don't judge
Yeah.
what I'm saying."
And it was
never
also
seen it.
strange. It was strange because we had like the producer would tell us like we couldn't move our hands certain ways, like we had to rest them a certain way, or he'd be like, "Hey, you're
Oh,
touching
wow.
your face too much. Stop touching your face." And it was very, very hard to do.
I scratched my
Yeah.
nose, and he called me out for scratching my nose and say, "People are going to call you out for that." And I'm like, "What?" No, they're going to think you're picking your nose. And he was like, "If you
That's
scratch
wild.
your nose, do it like this, or just don't do it at all. That's all you can do."
I have a few of the episodes saved secretly that I wasn't supposed to have. Mike, I'll
I'll have to
show
check
you
that
those
out.
at work. I'll show you
I was
at
going to
work.
say, I'll have to check that out. I would like to see that.